And then we want to share this thing. Okay, great. So we're holding the middle of the second section. And what happened was, Yehuda, you just joined. I mentioned that today's class is dedicated by your brother, and I said his name, I forget it offhand. So thank you. Thank your brother very much for dedicating today's class. We really appreciate it. It makes these classes possible. So what happened, just to give you the story as it's unfolding in the Holy Torah, what's taking place is that the Hashem told Moshe, before you pass away, you have another job. One of your last job, your final job, is to wage a war against the Midianites, who planned how to attack the Jews and try to destroy them. And how did they try to destroy them? By getting their women to incite the Jewish men, and then cause them to bow to the idol called Pa'ar, and they wage a war. And as we said yesterday, they came back from that war. They sent 12,000 soldiers to fight the war, and they all come back. And Moshe meets them, and we learned there was a little hiccup. People ran out to grab the spoils, and they left the women alive. And the women were really the ones who made all the problems here, because they enticed the men. And basically he said that you have to kill all the women that are of age to have relations, to have relations. They have to be killed. The ones who are younger than that can be left alive, and all the men and male boys also have to be killed from that tribe. Now we're continuing, and we're going to learn some very important laws, and that is about koshering a kitchen. For those who were with me in Yehuda's house by the lunch and learn, we koshered Yehuda's kitchen. How did I know what to do? Well, I looked in Shulchan Aruch, but it originates from today's portion. Why do we go and learn it now? Because they have a lot of pots and pans, gold, silver, and they all come from non-Jewish houses who ate non-kosher. And do they have to throw them all in the garbage, or is there a way to kosher a non-kosher item? On top of that, there's another issue which we addressed in the previous day's Chumash, is that they were impure because they were near to touch dead bodies, and they can't have impurities within the Jewish people because we have the sanctuary and people have sacrifices and holy stuff, and he can't be impure. So we also have to take care of that. Today, that's not an issue. We don't really deal with that. We don't deal with that issue today, but that was an issue that was dealt with in those days. And then there was a third issue, which is also going to be intimated here, and that is if you go to the Chabad mikvah that we're building now, you will notice that there are three entrances. One is for the women's mikvah, one is for the men's mikvah, and one is for if you buy pots and pans from a Gentile. In other words, if you're buying it from Israel, it might not need to go to the mikvah, but it does need to. And all those things are learned in the Chumash, starting yesterday and to today. We'll see it right now. So we learned yesterday about the people. They're impure because they touched dead bodies. They were just in war. They all need to be sprinkled with the red heifer. David Jarashar, am I saying it right? The red heifer ashes. I corrected myself yesterday. Thank you. The red heifer ashes. It's going to be embarrassing. Like 20, 30 years from now, I'm going to be listening to the recording. Whatever, I'm just kidding. Okay, so red heifer ashes, and they're going to sprinkle them on the people to purify them from being in contact with dead bodies, and therefore they have to go through a process of sprinkling it on them on the third day and the seventh day, and then they could come back into the holy section of the Jewish people where the temple is. It's fine after they wait that 7-day period. But what about all the items? So here we go. We're going to learn about that now. B'chol beged, and all kinds of garments. And today, it's not like today, what you buy and throw it out. You know, it was very expensive back in the day. All kinds of garments that they got from the Midianites. And we're going to see how much. It was a lot that they had. B'chol kliyar, and all leather products. You know, it's also very expensive stuff, especially in those days. B'chol ma'aseh izim, and all kinds of gold products. Rashi says, what kind of goat products are there? All kinds of goat products. You have horns, even vessels that make cups and ornaments out of horns and out of the hooves and out of the bones of the animal, all kinds of parts to the animal that people in those days, they're actually digging it up now. They find these really interesting vessels that made out of all kinds of animal parts. B'chol kliyates, and also any wood. They made pots and stuff out of wood, whatever they made, cups and different things out of wood, whatever, any items, vessels made out of wood. Tischatu also need to go through the purification process. You want to bring it among the Jewish people and you want to have impurity, you got to sprinkle. It's not just people that need the ritual sprinkling from impurity of the corpses, of dead corpses to being able to join the holiness of the Jewish people, everything, all the vessels that they got need to go through. Now comes very interesting, and that was told by Moshe. And all of a sudden, something very interesting happens in verse 21. The teacher becomes Elazar, the high priest, becomes a teacher and starts teaching the Jews the law. Vayomer Elazar Kohen, and Elazar the Kohen, Elanche Tzavas, starts telling the army of the Jewish army, Habayim Muhammad, that were coming from the war, starts teaching them the laws. What happened to Moses? And he says, these are the laws of the Torah that God commanded Moses. He gives Moses honor, and he says, guys, let me tell you what Moses taught me. But it's very interesting, seems very weird that what happened to Moses? What's going on over here? We always have Moses teaching. Why is Moses' nephew, who took over Moses' brother, Aaron, the high priest, why is he the teacher over here? Rashi says something fascinating in life, in what happens when you get angry. And he says that Moshe, if you look in the verse, Moshe got angry at the Jewish people. I believe it was when they left the women, when they came back. And because they left the women alive, Moses got angry and said, what's wrong with you guys? These are the women that made us sin. Why are you leaving them alive? Why are you taking them back? They were the ones who caused the sin of the Jewish people. So he says here, Moses got angry, and when Moses got angry, what happens when you get angry? You make a mistake. It's a very fascinating thing. Moses forgot the laws of kosher to tell the Jewish people about maybe didn't forget about, he forgot to tell them. All he said, guys, make sure all the vessels are pure because of the corpses. But he forgot to tell them that you also need to make sure that they're kosher. The guys had pig or non-slaughtered, non-kosher meat in the pots. And we're going to see that when there's non-kosher taste absorbed in pots, you need to get rid of the non-kosher taste that's absorbed in the pots. You can't just use pots, right? When you go to Turkey Swan Park and you want to use the grills that are waiting there next to the hike, and you don't know what the guy before you used those grills for, can you use your shish kebab, Yehuda? What do you put on the grills? Do you put shish kebab on the pilaf, whatever? Do you put, what? I missed what you said. I can't hear you.
I said you put foil.
Foil. Oh, so could you put can you put the stuff right on the grill or not? And he says that you can't put. So we're gonna learn that. So Moshe forgot to teach them this. And how could Moshe forget? And Rashi says whenever he gets angry, whenever a person gets angry, whenever Moshe got angry, he forgot stuff. And he says we had two other cases like this where Moshe got angry in the Torah. So we have a total of 3. The first time was when Aaron's 2 sons passed away. Remember that accident that took place there? They brought a fire that they weren't supposed to. And Aaron's first 2 sons, Nadav and Avihu, they perished. They died from a fire. And they ate certain sacrifices. And they didn't eat certain sacrifices. And Moses made a mistake. And he told Aaron, why did you eat it? I told you not to eat it. And Aaron defended himself, and Moses admitted his mistake. And Rashi says, very interesting. It says over there that Moses got angry. And the other time when Moses got angry, very interesting, was by the water. What happened there was they said, Moses, speak to the rock. I'm saying, why did you hit this rock? Why does it make a difference which rock you hit? Just hit any rock. And Moses got angry. And he says, what's wrong with you guys? Well, you think I can hit any rock? It has to be the right rock. And again, then Moses, instead of speaking to the rock like Hashem commanded, hit it. So Rashi says, very interesting. And the reason why we see that it's Elazar, the Kohen, who's speaking and not Moshe, is because Moshe forgot to tell them the laws of kosher, fascinatingly for this reason. Very, very interesting. And therefore, Elazar had to be the one to fill it over here. So when you get angry, you're actually much less productive. It's not healthy in life to get angry. It's a good lesson we can maybe learn from here. Okay, however, he did say this is the law that God taught Moshe. Elazar was very respectful to his teacher, even though he jumped up and filled in for Moshe. But he said, this is what God told Moshe, and I'm just repeating to you what Moses had taught me that he heard from God. Really, it all comes through Moshe. And what did he say? And here's the laws of kosher. Achas azav. If anybody has gold, that's like kesef and silver, different kinds of items. They have maybe a fancy kiddush cups made out of silver, right? Or nachashas, or copper, Vesab barzel, or iron. Vesab deal, or tin. I'm sorry, copper, iron, tin, and I read the translation wrong. Barzel, vesab deal, vesaiferes is iron, tin, and lead. If you have any one of these different kinds of items, you should know that in addition to what Moshe Rabbeinu Moses told you that you need to make sure it's sprinkled and pure, you have to know that it also needs to be koshered. And you cannot use them if you just go through the process that Moshe said, but you must add to also through the koshering way, which you're going to say in the next verse, how it's done till it's done. Now they add also another interesting thing that he says, that only if you do it, if there is rust on it, you also have to remove the rust before and get it to its original form. I think so. There's no grooves. It could be a problem if you want to kosher like certain forks or stuff that have very deep grooves and you can't really get the non-kosher taste out of it. It could be a problem, and you must remove the rust before you go into the item. So the item has to be clean and the rust has to be removed, and then you could kosher it. But how do you kosher things? Very interesting. Anything that was cooked in fire, whatever method you used that made it non-kosher. So it's a good class in kosher, it's very short. How do you kosher something? You make it go through the same process, simply that it got non-kosher in. That's it. Tavira ba'esh, anything that came through fire, just pass it through fire. However the fire affected it, that's what's affected. So for example, if you have a pot with water, you boiled something, you boil stuff in water, what you need to do is you need to reboil it in boiling water, and that's how you get it out. What about the grill that I mentioned at Turkey Swan Park? It didn't have boiled water. It's worse. They had the fire burn the grill of the non-kosher hot dogs of the guy before you, burn the taste in. The only way to get rid of it is to cook it on such a high temperature that it becomes glowing in fire. That's the height it has to come to. So it's not enough to boil it in water. It must have the same method that it became non-kosher, is the same method that has to go through kosher. So if it's boiled stuff, you got to do it like that. Like, let's also take like a frying pan. Frying pan doesn't have boiling water, so it has to become red hot. It's the same similar situation to a grill. But however it became non-kosher, that is the same method to remove the kosher. By the way, the only thing that it's not everything that could be koshered. We learned that enough time in the Torah, where like earthenware vessels are a problem, but we're not getting into that right now. Then he goes on to say, ach b'mei nida, however, with sprinkling water, yischato, besides being kosher through boiling it in the same temperature that it became non-kosher. By the way, I just want to share something really cool I never knew in my life. I found out this week that my neighbor across the street put in a stove that I never knew exists. I forget what it's called. That you spin, what's it called? Magnets. And you put on a metal pot. I see Iris shaking his head, and it's so cool. There's no fire, there's no gas involved. There's no electric or gas. It simply spins magnets, and that will warm up your iron. It has to be a stainless steel, whatever, iron pot. And it's amazing. There's no fire there, just warms up the pot somehow through the magnets. And I wonder how koshering would work. I don't think Moses discussed the magnets. I wonder if there would be any difference in how to kosher something in that situation. But that's just shows you how when modern technology comes up with new stuff, you have to really figure out how to apply it. So anyway, but back to what we knew in those days. So you also have to make sure that it goes through the meinida, through the sprinkling of the red heifer in order to clean it. So you need double cleaning. You need cleaning from the red heifer, and then you also need the cleaning. It's not enough to have one. One won't solve the other problem. You also have to go through the heat at the same level that it became heated. And by the way, if there was no heat, I think we'll see it in a moment, you have no problem because the taste doesn't get absorbed. If there's no only heat allows the non-kosher taste to become absorbed in the pot. It's not so simple. You know, you got to call me up if you want to know exactly how to kosher your kitchen, but these are some basic rules. Rashi also says, we learned something else here. You also have to put it in the mikvah. When it says, ach b'beinida yischato, it also has to go in the water of a mikvah water. He's telling you that the same way a woman goes to the mikvah in order to become pure after she has her period, or a man goes to the mikvah when he wants to hit that level of impurity, which the same thing is that your vessels when you buy them from a non-Jew, have to go through the mikvah process. And that's why Chabad, as I said before, is building 3 mikvahs in their area. What is the measurement, Rashi brings here, that's necessary for you to make a kosher mikvah? It has to be 40 sa. I think it's about 250 gallons, 350 gallons. If you go to Chabad, I could show you one time, I give people tours of the mikvah that we're building, you will see they have all these different, 350, 500 gallons, whatever it is, really large cavities where rainwater will go into, and that is where what we need for all the vessels mikvah, for the men's mikvah and the women's mikvah that will kosher it, that we could use those things. And that this is the source in Torah for it. And anything that did not get heated up through fire, does not come through fire, if you're b'mayim, you just need to put it in the water. You could just put it in the mikvah water, and it is kosher because the taste doesn't always usually get absorbed inside the walls of the vessel. It simply needs a good cleaning and a stick in the mikvah, and you're good to go. Okay. Verse 24. What about your clothes? I mean, you don't need to put your clothes. You don't need to burn your clothes or anything else like that. Boiling water, however, your clothes do have to go in the mikvah. You have to wash your garments. I believe that means you put it in the mikvah on the 7th day, and then make them pure. And then you could come into the holy sanctuary inner camp. So remember, we always learn there's 3 perimeters. There's the sanctuary, then there's a second perimeter where the Levites were, and the third perimeter where the regular Israelites were. If you were by a funeral and you were by a dead body, you can walk in the 2 outer perimeters. You could still walk in the Levite camp, and you can walk in the regular Jew camp, but you can't go into the camp where the Mishkan, where the Beis Hamikdash is, and therefore, for your clothes and your body, you need to go through the red heifer ash sprinkling in order to get purified from those things. And that is the end of that topic. We move right along. What about how much money came in? This is really a numbers thing. We'll go through this quickly. So join me as we continue learning how much and how much donation was required. So a few interesting questions we'll address here. Did the army get to keep all the spoils of the war, or did they have to share some with the Jewish people that they were going to? Was there a donation that had to be given from the money they made from the spoils of war to Hashem? Who did it go to? Very interesting look as I read through this section together. Hashem said to Moshe, he says, count the plunder. Which plunder? Not all the plunder, specific plunder we want you to count. We need to know numbers. We need an accounting of it. Which ones? Hashvi ba'adam, those who are captured people. Uva behema, and animals. I want to know how many people and how many animals there are, because there's a certain tithe, there's a certain kind of donation percentage that needs to be given. Atav Elazar, you, Moses, you oversee it together with Elazar HaKohen, Elazar, your nephew, the priest. Rashi, Avaisa, together with the leaders of the community, go and make a calculation. Get your calculator out, get your scale out, whatever you need to use, your pad, your paper, and let's get to work. We need to know how much money came in from this war that we just had. You should divide it. They don't get to keep everything, the soldiers. Between the warriors that went out, between the rest of the Jewish people. So we're going to make a split the pot. Half for these and half for those are going to get a split between the Jewish people that didn't go to war and the 12,000 soldiers. They don't get to keep all of it. They have to split it and share it with the rest of the Jewish people. And a tax needs to be taken. Taxes, my friend. And take a tax, Hashem, to who? To God. From the people of the war, who go out to the army. A very small tax that you're going to like this tax. One of 500 mina adam for people. You got to donate. If you cap every 500 people that were captured in the war, you got to donate 1 of 500 to Hashem. And we're going to say, what does it mean give it to God? How do we do that? Who's it going to go to? We're going to see soon in a minute. Mina bakar, and the same thing will apply to the spoils of war that you got from the cattle, mina chamayrim, from the donkeys, uminat soin. Interestingly, from these 3 things, from the cattle, from the donkeys, and the sheep, you got to give a 1/500 tax to Hashem. You should take from that half of the Jewish people. And who does the donation go to? It goes to Elazar the Kohen. The Kohen's going to get, the Kohen family, David Jarish's great-great-great-great-grandfather, will get 1 in 500 of the people that were captured in war, and in the cattle, in the donkeys, and in the sheep. Umemachtzis bnei Yisrael, and from the half of the Jewish people, Tichad echad achuz min hachamishim. They don't donate a tax of 1 in 500. They have a much bigger tax, 1 in 50. Min ha'adam, min ha'bakar, min ha'chameim, it's from the same things, from people, from cattle, from donkeys, from sheep, and also mikol ha'behema, he adds here, from all the animals, actually. I guess there were other animals too. And who do those go to? Those go to the Evan Zimmerman's tribe. And Asatei Levim should give them to the Levites, Shaimni Mishmeres Mishkan Hashem, who guard the guarding of Hashem. So the Israelites will give 1/50 of their half to the Levite family, and the warriors will give 1/500 of their warrior of what they captured to the Kohen. Now, there were much less Kohanim, almost no Kohanim, and there were much more Leviim already in that group, just to mention. But Yas Moshe Elazar Kohen Kashrutz of Hashem, Moshe and Aaron also did. Hashem told them, now we only going to tell you in the calculation how much money came in or how many people came in, only in this specific spoils, because the donations were required from here. So we had to have your tax return on this thing because we had to know how much of a percentage of tax you needed to give. The rest of the stuff, there is no accounting because there's no percentage given. So we don't know how much it was. So the numbers here are only the spoils in addition to the other spoils. We're not, so we're just letting you know there was a lot more stuff. There was another donation they're going to give on their own. You'll see in a minute, because a great miracle happened. And not one of the 12,000 soldiers got hurt in war, which is amazing, which is a tremendous miracle. They're going to give a donation, but practically speaking, the only commandment tax they had was on these things that we mentioned. What was there? Shabazu Tzayin was sheep, Sheish Meis Elef, 600,000, V'shivim Elef, V'chamesh Alaf, and 675,000 sheep. Wow. They took back from Midian 675,000 sheep. Remember, that was only half, because half of it they also gave away to the Jewish people. Vakar, Shnai V'shivim Elef, and then large cattle, 72,000. Also a big number of Chabayim Elef, and 61,000 donkeys, and of the people. Remember, all men, including children, were not alive anymore, and women were not alive if they were over the age that they could have relations. So from the younger women, who never had intimacy or never were the age to have intimacy, called nafesh shnayim u'shleishim alaf, were 32,000 souls. And the half of the portion of those who went into battle were shleish me'os elef, shleish elef, shivas elef mechamesh me'os, 337,500. How much was? So I guess, one second, did I say the numbers right? So there was 675,000 sheep, and they gave half of that. So that's how we have the number. I'm not so good with, I keep on top of the math. 330, yeah. I guess 675, half of that is 337,500. So they only got half of that. So that's how much it was. So how much was the taxes that the army soldiers had to give? 675 was the amount of tax of the 1 in 500. 30 v'habakar, and the cattle, shisha shleishim elef umichsam la'Hashem shnayim v'shivim alef. There were 36,000 cattle and 72. How many donkeys were there? Shleishim elef v'chamesh me'os, 35,000 umichsam la'Hashem echad v'shishim plus 61. They went to Hashem. And how much people were given to Hashem to go to the Kohen? Shisha Asar Elef, 16,000. I'm sorry, there were 1,000 people, of which I'm sorry, I read the numbers. I'm sorry, I read the verses wrong. There were 16,000 people to the Koyens, and they gave 32 people. So I read the numbers wrong before. It says let me just read that over again quickly. The sheep was 600, or maybe I read it right. You know what? I'm just gonna move on. I'm not going to focus on that now. Okay. And Moshe gave the tax of Hashem to Allah to the Kohen. Exactly Hashem command. So the Kohen got all that. And the half that went to the Jewish people, that went to the Jewish people. And they got half of the sheep. How much sheep did the rest of the Jewish people get for the half of the spoils? Shleish Beis Elef Ushleishim Elef Shivas Alaf Mechamesh Meis. There was 337,500 sheep. That's how much went to Vakar Shishim Shleishim Elef. There was 36,000 cattle. The Chamedim Shleishim Elef Chamesh Meis. There was donkeys 30,500. V'nefesh Adam Shisha Asar Elef. There was 16,000 people. V'yakum Machtas When Yisrael Moshe took out the half from those things. As Achuz Echad Min HaChamishim, they had to donate a tax of 1 in 50. Min Adam Min HaBehema V'Yitin Es HaLevim, from people, from cattle, from the animals and from the people. He gave them to the Levites, Shemin Mishmeres Mishkan Hashem, who had the job of guarding the Mishkan of Hashem. Like Hashem commanded him. But the officers that were appointed to oversee the army, there were officers over 1,000, there were officers over 100. They told Moshe, good news. We counted all the people you should know that went to war. That's in our hand. And not one man was missing. Big miracle. Not one person of the 12,000 people that went, we did a head count, and nobody was missing. So we want to bring God a gift. What's the gift we want to give? Right? We were never told to tax the gold things we got. So we want to donate specific ornaments that if we collected them in the spoils, we want to donate specifically those spoils to Hashem. What are the spoils that we want to donate to Hashem? Let's see what it is. V'nikraves korban Hashem ish asher matzah. Anyone who found, want to bring as a sacrifice to God, a kli zav, any from made out of gold, etz oda, a ankle bracelet, as Rashi says. I guess they came up with a bunch of ankle bracelets. So it's any ankle bracelet that is going to be donated, that we came up, going to be donated to Hashem. Kli zahav etzada, or atzamid. Atzamid is a hand bracelet, a regular bracelet on the hand. Tabas, tabas is a ring. Ogil is a earring that goes in the ear. The kumaz is a form that the women would put on their genitals, some kind of a shape in their gold that they would put it there. And this is very specific because the sin of the Jewish people was through these Midianite women, and this kind of jewelry ornament is representing that idea. So that is to bring the chapra al nafshis lifnei Hashem, to forgive for our souls, to atone from Hashem concerning the bad thoughts that the men had from the Midianite women. And Moshe and Elazar took the gold, eat it from them, all these articles of gold that they mentioned. But he called Zavat Truma, and how much gold was there? How much was the weight? How many shekels of gold? Shekel mi'ei sari halafim mi'ei sari ameis. There was 16,750 shekels of gold, which is a lot, very, very large amount of gold that the commanders of the Jewish people brought. The soldiers had seized spoils for themselves. From that, they gave a donation from what they got. Moshe and Elazar took this extra gift from the commanders of the army of the thousands, and the commanders of the hundreds. They went and brought it to the sanctuary, the meaning the Mishkan, Zikrain, as a remembrance of Yisrael of Hashem, Zikarein, before Hashem, for the great miracle that they literally went to war, attacked this huge country who was very, very dangerous, and not one soldier died. A tremendous miracle. And now we go on to a very interesting story. We finished with the Avav. We begin chapter 32. There was the tribes of Ruvain and Gad came to Moshe and said, we're at the border of the country of Israel. We're at the Jordan River, and we don't want to go into Israel. We want to stay here. And instead of taking land with the rest of the Jewish people, we will accept the real estate here, and we will give up our portion to the land in Israel. And Moshe, I may use the word freaked, Moshe got very scared, and he was just waiting for a disaster. Because here we go again, the sin of the spies, which we just suffered tremendously. What is going on? So follow along in the story. In the Torah, you'll see the holy words of the Torah as it describes this interesting story that took place. There was a tremendous amount of cattle to the Bnei Ruvain or the Bnei Gad. Ruvain to Ruvain and Gad. 2 tribes of the 12 tribes. One was Ruvain, the oldest tribe, and then the middle tribe was Gad. They had a tremendous amount of cattle. Atzumiyot, very, very, very much, very numerous, very strong. And they lived in the land, Vayiru es Eretz Yazer, that's Eretz Gilad. They saw the land of Yazer and Gilad, Vini Amakim, Mikna, and it was perfect real estate for cattle. They had perfect real estate for cattle. Hold on one second. I'm going to show you a picture because maps really help us in this situation. So hold on one second, and we will share with you a map. that we have. I posted it on the daily class that we have, so you can have the picture on your WhatsApp. And I will try to share it. One second for all you guys over here. Hang on. Let's just see which area we're talking about. We're going to need it for the Chumash also. You'll see in a moment why. Where is it? I thought I posted. Here it is. Okay. All right. Let me share with you guys. So here is the map. Here's my WhatsApp. Here's the map. Okay. So the Jews have conquered. If you look on this picture, there's the Arnon River. The Arnon River is right by the middle of the Dead Sea. You'll see by the Dead Sea. North of it is where the Jews were living. South of it was the Moabites. And by the way, north, there was a large thing of land called Ammon. And the Jews were not allowed to attack it. We were told in Rashi in the beginning of this week's Parsha, because Ruth, the Moabite, I think her name was Naamah, from Ammon, will come, and therefore these nations will be the wife of King Solomon and the mother, great-great-grandmother of King David, and therefore the Jews were told not to touch them. The Midianites lived way down south, and that who attacked them, and they had no reason to attack them. Moabites, maybe they were scared because the Jews were right next to them, but the Midianites were wrong for attacking them. What do they have business with them? They don't even live next to them. Anyhow, the swath of land we're talking about right now, where Reuven and Gad are living, are right here next to the Jordan River, next to the Dead Sea. I think it might even say Yazer. What were the words? Let me just see if I can bring up the Chumash, and then we'll go back there. I think that might have the words we were actually looking at. Gilad and Yazer. You see, Yazer and Gilad. Now we go to the map, and let's see if we can find it on the map. And I definitely see Yazer, right? You see Yazer right there next to Ammon. There's a country called Yazer, and they really liked that land, and they said it was perfect for their needs, for their family needs, for their sheep. And they asked Moses, they're going to ask Moses, can we stay here? This is where our story takes place. By the way, to the north, you see where Mount Hermon is, north of Gilad. They're going to conquer more land, actually, at the end of today's Chumash. Stay tuned. We'll see that shortly. Okay. So, they had a lot of sheep. God and to God. These two tribes. A tremendous amount. And they see the land they just showed you called Yazer. And the land of Gilad. Perfect for pasturing sheep. Perfect for livestock. And they want to stay there. As the children of God and Reuven came. They said to Moshe, Elazar HaKohen, and to Moshe's nephew, Elazar the Kohen, and the leaders of the tribe, saying, all these little either areas, Atrois, Divon, Yazer, Nimrah, Cheshbon. Cheshbon's one of the cities there. Vel Ole, Ushvam, Unavoy, Uvoin, all these places, they were from the lands that originally belonged to Sichon and Og, which they had conquered. Haaretz Asher Hika, verse 4, Hashem, Lifnei Alas Yisrael, the land that Hashem had smitten for the Jewish people. Eretz Mikneh, it's a land of livestock. Ulavdacha Mikneh, and we have livestock. They said to Moshe, if we find favor in your eyes, give this land to your servants, please, and make that our heritage. This will be our new property. Do not make us pass over the Jordan River. We want to stay here. So here's where Moshe says his response is what? So Moshe tells the children of God and Reuven, you will, your brothers, what? Your brothers are going to go to war, and you're going to stay here? You're going to hang out over here, and everyone else is going to go to war? Is this what you're saying? Why are you going to discourage your brothers, the hearts of Bnei Yisrael, Ma'avras hearts, to go into the land Hashem gave to them? They are going to think that the reason you don't want to go is not because you like the pasturing for your business, for your cattle. They're going to think it is because you're scared to go in, and you know what's going to happen. The domino effect of fear is going to take place, and a disaster is about to come to the Jewish people. This is exactly what your fathers did. This is what your fathers did. When I sent them and we were on the southern border of Israel in the area called Kadesh Barnea. This was a city called Kadesh, but there was two kinds of Kadesh, as Rashi says. One is Kadesh Barnea, and this one was Kadesh Barnea. That's where we sent the spies from. And they went up and they traveled north into Israel to the area called Eshkol, the Yerusa Aretz, and they saw the land of and they discouraged the Jews. They saw the Vilti Vayalatz, and they said, don't come into the land. Hashem gave to them. So what are you guys doing? Are you kidding me? That, this is exactly what we dealt with 38, 39 years ago. And Hashem got angry at us, and he swore on that day, saying, will these men see me? Anyone who was 20 and up, as Adam of the land, that I promised to give to Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, because they did not follow me with their whole heart. So God got angry, and he says, I'm not giving the land. Are you kidding? What are you guys doing over here? Kalev ben Yefunah, besides two people, Kalev was the son of Yefunah, whose father was from the Knizis, that was his father's name was he was a stepson, of someone called Knaz. So he was called the Knizi, that was like his nickname. And his mother had a son called Asniel, so he's like a half brother to. It just giving you some of the history, which is mentioned elsewhere in another part of Tanakh. So he will go in. And Hashem got angry at the Jewish people. And he led them wander in the desert for 40 years. Till the whole generation got ended and finished, expired. Hashem that did the bad in Hashem's light. He made us travel, move from place to place, and go wandering in the land because of that mistake. And you now taking the place, you're standing up under the place of your fathers, Tarbu, Hanashim, Chatoyim, as a society of sinful people. This voice to add Oidat al Charein Af Hashem to Hashem's anger, Yisrael. When they will turn from Hashem now, Hashem will let us all stay in the desert. And you'll completely destroy this people. We cannot deal with this right now. What's going to happen to us if this takes place? This is a disaster waiting to happen. So what's going on? So what's their plan? So they say, no, we're going to speak up. We're going to tell you what our plan is. That's not true. That's not going to happen. Don't have to worry about it. Why not? We're not like those people. Big Shuelov, and they approached Moshe, and they said to him, we're going to build like barns for our animals, for our cattle, for our sheep, the Miknenu for our cattle, Poi here, but will build cities, refuges, places to live for our little children. We'll take care of them. We'll set them up. And then we're going to verse 17. I'll go back to the Rashi in a minute. Let me just finish the topic here. We're going to arm up, chushim, prepared, ready to go to war before the rest of the Jewish people. We're not leaving them. We're going to go in the front until Hashem brings us to the place. And our children will stay at home because of the inhabitants of the land. We just got to set them up. We got to protect them. And then we're going to go to war, and we're going to go in the front. You don't have what to worry about. Don't be scared, Moshe Rabbeinu. We're not playing games with you here that we're afraid. We are going up, and we're going to go in the front. Let's see what Rashi says. First of all, he teaches you a business mistake that they made. They said to Moshe, we're going to build barns for our sheep and our cattle, and we're going to build, then after that, they say, we'll build also cities for our children. Refuge for our children. And Moshe didn't like that. Moshe is like, no. You first build a refuge for your children, and then you build for your sheep. You're too focused on your income over here that you're first worrying about them, then you're going to worry about your families, and that's a very big mistake. So later on, Moshe is going to swap it, we'll see soon, and say this interesting difference. Rashi points this out between their original argument to Moshe and then the follow-up to it, that they're going to first ask about their animals and then their family, and Moshe says that's not the way to do it. But anyway, what do they say? We are going to go speedily. Don't worry about it. We're going to arm up. We're going to go first in front of all the Jewish people. And Rashi says it's known that these people, they were actually mighty warriors. God would slay with the sword the head and the arm, chop off the thing, and they're going to keep their word later on, actually. And in the times of Yeshua, Joshua, when they'll conquer the land, they're going to go in front, and they do keep their word. Just by the way, later on, and so on. So that's what they're saying. Loi nashuv al batenu, we will not come back home. Verse 18. Ad hisnachel b'nei Yisrael as nachlasim, until the Jewish people settle in their inheritance land. We're going to wait. So that's a double thing. Not just will we not stay there until we fight a war, we're not even going to come back until everybody's settled, which will take a total of 14 years. It'll take 7 years to conquer the land, and then another 7 years to divide it up and settle everybody, and they will not return home to their families for 14 years until it's all settled. So we say, and on top of that, we will not inherit with them. We're giving up, we're forfeiting our portion to them from the other side of the western side of the Jordan River, and because we are accepting real estate and property on the eastern side of the Jordan River. Okay, we're going to do half of just a part of Reviz, and we're going to finish Parshas Matos. Moshe says, okay, I like that. If you do this, if you go to battle and prepare yourself for war and arm up, and all the prepared people who are armed up will go as a yarding first of Hashem in front of Hashem until you not just fight but inherit the land from their enemies, until you drive them out, until you drive, and you will conquer the land from before Hashem, and then you will return after that. Only after you finish, then you will be clean, keeping your return. You'll be freed from your obligation. You saw from the Jewish people, and then you can have this land. Then it'll belong to you, this original land. Achuz is an inheritance of Hashem before Hashem. And if you don't do that, you have sinned before God. And know the sin that you did. That will find you. You're playing with fire. It's very dangerous what you're doing. And now, not like you said, you'll take care of your cattle and then take care of your families. The opposite. First build cities for your children. Security. And then build the barns and pasture enclosures for your sheep. Whatever you said you should do, that you're going to not just conquer the land, but you're also going to wait till it gets inherited. Moshe originally asked they should help conquer, and they said, no, we also are committing to wait until it gets fully settled and inherited to the Jewish people, which will take an extra 7 years. So the children of God and Reuben said to Moshe, your servants will do as Moshe commanded, and Rashi says they were all as one. They were total in agreement. There was no argument. They were ready to keep their word, everybody together. And they repeat again. It's a little long. We'll just go through it quickly. They repeat their deal to Moshe that they made up. Our children, our wives, our cattle, all our animal will stay in the cities of Gilad. And your servants, and all your servants will pass prepared for war, armed for battle, like you spoke. And Moshe said, Yeshua ben Nun, and also your Joshua, the son of Nun, Rashi, obviously, and the heads of the tribes, Amatas of Yisrael. And I guess Joshua needs to be involved because Moshe will already pass away by that time. So everybody's there. Here's the deal. I guess it's Moshe the one repeating again the deal. If God and Reuven will go in front, go over the Jordan in front of you, and they will be ready for battle in Muhammad, and they will conquer the land of Satalam and they will get also the land of Gilad that's on the eastern side of the Jordan River. But if they won't go and battle up, suit up, then they will have to get the portion among you, and they will not receive the portion. So it's subject to them following their act. Will they inherit this land on the eastern side of the Jordan River? And God and Reuben said, yes, we will do exactly like you said. We're going to go prepared, set for war in front of Hashem Eretz Canaan to get the land of Canaan. And to us, in our hands, will be then the possession of the eastern side of the Jordan River. Moshe gave it to them, and here Moshe adds in and gives a half of Menashe. Right? We were discussing the other day, it wasn't Ephraim, it was Menashe ben Yosef, the son of Yosef, who as Memlecha Sichon Melech HaMori, he gave them the land of a little more north of the king of Sichon, the Amorites, Melechas Og, and the giant Og, Melech HaBashan, the king of the Bashan area. Its cities with the borders and the cities surrounding it, he gave it to them. Now, I don't see it here in Rashi, but I remember reading somewhere the reason why did he stick Menashe? That Menashe was never part of the deal. How come they stuck Menashe into this? And I think the answer is that Menashe was a great lover of Israel, and he didn't want as far as I remember hearing, he didn't want them to be separated from the Jewish people. He wanted there to be a bond of connection, and I guess he felt Menashe will keep the Jews that are on the other side of the Jordan River, Reuben and Gad, connected and spiritually connected through Menashe being there. I guess he set up a Chabad house on that side. The Yivnim Gad is Divine, and to God he built up a city called Divon, Ves Atares, Ves Aroyar, a place called Atares, and a place called Aroyar, Ves Atares Shefan, another place called Teres Shefan, Ves Yazer, V'Yogba, and Yazer, and Yogba, like we mentioned before already, which they originally asked for, a space Nimra, and base Nimra, base Haran, and the house of Haran, Ari Miftzar, these fortified cities, we get a sign, and their sheep. So they had everything that they built their fortified cities that they wanted to build. Bnei Reuven and Banu as Cheshbon, and then Reuven went to build up the city of Cheshbon. That's Olei, that's Kiryasayim, Eloi, and Kiryasayim, that's Navoi, that's Baal. I think on the map, I'm looking a minute, hopefully we have these names of these cities. That's Baal, Ma'oin, Moisabis, Shem, and Navoi and Baal Ma'oin, their names having been changed. That's Shivma, Yikra B'Shmeisa, Shmeisa Ardim, Asharbanu, and they were called with the names of the cities that they built. So he says because Nevai and Baal Moin were names of idols, and then Amorite names that gave their names after these idols. And the descendants of Reuben changed the names to other names, so that they shouldn't use the names of idols to continue referring to them. Okay. V'yelchu b'nei Machir ben Menashe, and then Machir, who was the son of Menashe, who's now getting also Moshe added them in to get property on this side of the Jordan. Gilada, Vayilkadu, and they went and by the way, they made some more words. They didn't just take the land at this point that they already got. They went and fought and got some more countries on this side of the Jordan River. And they drove out. They chased out some of the Amorites, the Sharba, that were in there. And then Moshe gave the city of Gilad that he just conquered to Menashe, to Machir, the son of Menashe. They lived there. Vayar ben Menashe halach v'kadas Chavoisehem, and then Yar, the son of Menashe, went and attacked the city called Chavoisehem, Vikras and Chavis Yar, and they changed the name to Chavois Yair. In other words, he had no children, so he named it after himself as a memorial. Some people name it after the kids' memorial. He named after himself in Nevayach. I think also maybe because if you don't have a kid, that's what you remembered, hopefully by the town, because you don't have kids that will keep your name alive. Noivach went to conquer Knas, that's Bnei Seha and its surrounding cities, and he called it after his name, called Noivach. I just want to say, I didn't have a chance for it to read this Rashi, and we're going to finish over here. That when it's not a name that will remain, he changes a little bit the letters in it, whatever, it's a grammatical Rashi, we won't get into it now. And that is the end of today's Chumash. I do want to just go back to the picture to show you what we were learning. And we'll leave it over here. So you see the box there. You see Boyan, Atarais, Shaifa, Yogbad, in that little box. Those are the different names of the cities. You see Cheshbon was a famous city. We mentioned that in the middle. There's a place called Cheshbon that was a very protected city. Here's Diva and Aroyar. I think we had all these different names, and they went up even to I think Ashtarais, and I think they went all the way up north here. I'm not sure how far. But they went up somewhat north, as we see here in the map. And that is the end of today's Chumash. Any questions or comments on today's Chumash? All right, we'll leave it at that.